Welcome, everyone. I'm Medyhne from Arise Humanity, and I am super thrilled to bring on board today a friend of mine who's also a spiritual author, writer, who's very grounded, a grounded spiritual writer, author. And he's from the same neck of the woods that I'm from, which is New South Wales, from the Byron region. And Steve Layer, he has a yurt also that he uses for retreats in where he lives, which overlooks Mount Warning, which is a spectacular mountain in the Byron region. And he's also a counsellor, and he's doing more and more counselling at the moment. And I'm really excited to welcome him today. So welcome, Steven.
Good morning. How are you, Medyhne?
Very good, very good. Do you like my background? I got this really, really exciting background today. I'm really happy with that.
Very funky and spaced out. I do love it very much.
Thank you, thank you.
It's a bit like you. You're very spacious.
Oh, thank you. That's good. Yes, yes. I'm definitely a starseed.
Oh yeah.
So tell me, Steven, how would you like to open the talk today?
Well, on the drive over here, I had a bit of an idea. And my idea was, I've seen so many of your interviews and your talks, and you're talking with all these people all over the world, yet nobody's asking you the questions. And I just had an idea, if you're open to this possibility, that I could actually ask you some questions, and I could interview you for a change, because a few people, including myself, have said, what does Medyhne do? And I find it hard to put into words. So I wondered if I could swap the roles today, and I could ask you a few questions, and then that will help, I think, people really understand you a lot better, because, as I said, I have a number of friends who are know about you. They've seen a couple of your sessions, but they're saying, but what does she do? And, if I go and meet with her and have a session, what are the possibilities? So how about I ask you some questions, and then at the end, if it feels right, you can ask me a question or two about what I do. But let's focus on you today, I think.
Oh,
how does that sound?
Sure. That's lovely. Thank you. That's very nice of you for thinking of me. Thank you.
Cool. So I'll just jump right into it, because, as I said, when I meet people, when you meet people, I'm wondering, I know, because when I'm out there and I talk to people and they just pull you up and they say, what do you do? What do you do? And so I was wondering how you answer that question, again, because I've had difficulty answering that when people ask me about you. So what is it that you call yourself? Are you a healer? Are you a seer? Are you a teacher? Are you a counselor, an alchemist? I mean, is there a word or words that you can describe what you do, what you call yourself?
Sure. Well, it's really difficult to find in the English language, I think, words that really encompass exactly what you do. There's a certain level of, I don't know, it sounds a little bit presumptuous to say that I'm a healer, but I do energetic healing. But, the word healer presupposes, I don't know, I just, it sounds a little presumptuous to me. So I like to say,
not to me.
That's good. I like to say I do energy work, and I guess also I'm a spiritual teacher, a guide. What the work that I do encompasses, and what it is all my life I've been interested in people. And so I started at university. I studied, psychology and sociology, and I got a Bachelor of Arts. And then I got a postgraduate diploma, and then I just continued throughout my whole life to explore people. And then when I think it was the trigger when I had my first child, 30 years ago now, that pushed me toward a more spiritual perspective on life. And I learned meditation, and then I started to do a lot of holistic alternative practices. Like I became a Reiki master, and then I did whole range of courses in alternative healing, such as kinergetics, a combination of kinesiology and energy work, and just a whole lot of different things. And one of the biggest ones I did was a thing called Pleiadian light work, which is full sensory perception healing. And I did 3 full levels of that, which led me to become what is qualified in America as a minister of healing. And so what that entails is that you actually go into people's energy fields and you read their energy, and you see what comes up in the energy field that needs to be worked on, that is coming up as the main priority. And so what I do is I read people's energies, and then I tell them what it is that's coming up and how to work on it. And I do both healing, energetic healing on that. I've got higher beings that I work with that come in and do clearing and healing, and I work with them. And I also tell them ways that they can empower themselves to be able to work with any residual issues that are left, or whatever is the life lesson that they're working on. So I've got like audios and resources and things, and I also give them techniques to work with. So it's really it's not only doing the energetic healing on them, but it's also empowering them to empower themselves to be able to shift whatever it is that's holding them back in their life. And it can be a whole range of things that it covers. There's 200 plus techniques with everything that I do that I could work with. So it depends what they present with. So for example, say they're presenting with a physical health issue, everything comes down to energy. So you go in and you read the energy and you read the block and what it is that they're holding that's blocking them on that level, because your body is just a beautiful source of information that's like an antenna that tries to tell you where there's a blockage or where there's something that's not flowing, and it's trying to help you move forward spiritually. So it is a spiritual guide for you, and the indicator is the level of your health, if that makes sense. So
totally makes sense.
Yeah. So I know you're into all this, so you'll totally get it. Yeah.
I mean, what I'm hearing is that you work in a wide array of different areas, but what you're fundamentally doing is you're helping people transform their lives.
Yes, well, it really is about soul evolution, soul growth, because we incarnate to spiritually progress, to grow as a soul, and our body is simply just a vehicle to do that. And everything that presents to you, whether it's, a lot of people present with relationship issues. Now, relationships in your life are a mirror that reflects back to you what you need to work on. And as we are the co-creators of our reality, everything external around us is reflecting back to us ourselves, and where there are blockages and where things aren't flowing, it's just simply an indicator to yourself that that's an area that requires more work. And there's no judgment in this either, because we're all here to learn and to grow, and the process of evolution never stops. Even when we go out of this body and we continue in the other realms, we're still going to be growing spiritually. So the work, it's hard to pinpoint specific things, often, there's physical body issues, there's emotional issues people are dealing with, there's relationship issues, there's mind issues of people feeling that their mind's full and it's very busy, or they're stressed or they worry. So it's transmuting that. It's really getting out of the mental body and centering more in the heart center, from a space of unconditional divine love. And we're all collectively as humanity learning to center ourselves more and more from our heart base as well.
So it's really all types of people. You see all types of people, or are there particular you're only working with people that are on their spiritual path, or what's the type of typical person you see?
Well, that's an interesting question. What I tend to find is that it magnetizes to the work and to me people that already have a level of awareness. Because
Right.
they'll come in and they'll have an awareness. They'll be quite awake. When you talk about people that know what's going on in the world in terms of the truth, the community, and whatsoever, they're pretty awake and they're pretty tuned in, and they've generally been spiritually aware and things. That they're the people that are generally attracted to this work. Yeah.
But would you see somebody who's more mainstream and they're in their career and they're struggling with something? Would you be willing to see that type of person too?
100%. Yeah, anybody really, and absolutely.
Yeah, cool.
Anyone that's guided to do the work, I'm open to working with them, absolutely. And for me, it's just as fun to work with someone who is on the early stages of their path as someone who has done a lot of work. They're different spectrums, but they're both just as fun to work with and important, to be able to help both stages.
Well, I think what's happening in the world right now is a time of awakening, and more people are kind of awakening in different aspects, and they need guidance. So
yes, absolutely.
I'm seeing that more and more out there.
Oh, true.
Yeah. So I was curious. You mentioned that you kind of came into this in a bigger way after you had your first child.
Mm-hmm.
I was curious when I was thinking about you last night and thinking about what I wanted to learn from you today. I was curious about your childhood, and was this like a natural call? Was there some sort of natural calling as when you were a child? Was there some sort of, were you doing this kind of thing as a child naturally, or was it something that just came on, like you said, you had your first child and something switched on and you went into this area? What happened?
Well, that's a very interesting question too. It's interesting to hear people's journeys, isn't it? Their stories. I started off where I was very connected to nature. I guess you would say I was a nature spirit. We had quite a big block in Templestowe. Interestingly, Templestowe, because I love temples. I grew up in Templestowe, and we had this big block, and I would just go wandering in the morning, and I'd go just wandering off in nature. Potentially sometimes with my dogs, or just wandering off in nature, and then I just wander and then come home later in the day, so I was very much connected to nature and just wandering freely in the orchards and in the little woods where I lived, and so that was my link to spirituality as I grew up, was this connection with Mother Earth. And that was just a gift, because you don't really see children doing that so much anymore, just, going off early in the morning, disappearing all day, and then coming home, toward dinner time. So that was beautiful. And I also had quite a connection with, animals. I had quite a few dogs. I would collect animals and bring them home, like ones that were like dogs that were stray. I would bring them home. One time I brought home a puppy in my school bag, and my mum said to me in the car, she heard a noise, and she goes, "It's not another tortoise, is it?" or something, or because I was bringing home different things like ducks and dogs and but anyway, so there was a real connection to nature, is what I'm really saying, and that was my spirituality. I wasn't aware. My father was brought up in the church, but I didn't really connect to that. I didn't have really a bar of that. It didn't resonate with me, or the whole religion thing. But the spirituality came through the connection with nature. That was for me my divine connection. But when I got older, when I had my daughter, I had quite a bit of an epiphany about my connection to the divine and to what God was in my terminology. God can be a religious concept. So, you can call it source, the light, the oneness, the creator, whatever you want to call it. But that connection became really enhanced. And they say each child brings you a gift, and that's certainly true. And so then I just got on this path to actually really confront my own inner demons, to confront the things within myself that needed to be worked on. And I remember making a conscious choice at that time. Okay, this is it. This is the time I've got to really crunch down. I've got to really look at myself and look at all the things that need work. And I worked extremely intensively for many years on looking, striving to look at everything honestly and authentically, and clearing out the cupboard, so to speak, and when you've done a lot of that intensive work on yourself, it really does allow you to be able to work with other people too. And also, I had a lot of challenges, as we all do in life. I had a baby who passed at birth, and I had different, big challenges that I was dealing with. And that also enhances your ability when you go through something yourself to be able to help other people that are going through things too. Because if you're reading it in a book, that's one thing, but if you're actually experiencing it, it takes it to a whole nother level of empathy and compassion, I feel. So, it really did help with everything that I'm doing now.
Awesome. Because I know you as a very passionate person, and I'm curious about that passion with your work. And I was just curious as to what is the motivation with your work, and outside of your work, what is the thing that really motivates you, that keeps you doing what you're doing and holding the space as you hold the space?
Oh, well, as you say, Matt, I feel teary. It's my love for humanity. Nice. I really love people, and silly to be crying, I guess, over this, but
no, beautiful.
The tears, I can't help it. As I feel something, I will allow the emotion to come up. People are very special.
Yes.
And I really honor them, and I really want them to do well. I want them to progress. I don't want them. There's been so many resettings of humanity where we have nearly evolved and gone to the next level, and it's been it's been stopped, and we have reverted back to the original sort of basic form of humanity again. So this is our opportunity now to really make that leap, to make that transition into a new renaissance, into a new birthing of what humanity could be. And that's you can tell from the tears. That's why I'm passionate about it. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you for sharing your gifts with us.
Oh, pleasure.
Pleasure. I want to expand the scope a bit and talk about the world.
Yeah.
There's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world right now. Well, that's one way to look at it.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, what you thought would be what's the most important thing that we should all be working on now in these times of so much change in the world and so many challenges and upheaval and everything else that's happening? What should we be working on ourselves?
That is a really great question. It's a key question at the moment. I really have enjoyed the work of a very beautiful soul called Thich Nhat Hanh from a Vietnamese master who recently transitioned. And he talked about the importance of going to our true home, which is within ourselves. So it's and I love that, because it has that warmth with it, of going to our true home. And so the ability to go inward and find out who we really are originally as a divine spark of God. We are in the eternal process of rediscovering who we truly are. And when we say who we truly are, it is who the infinite potential of who we truly are, which is everything that we are as a spark of God, as an aspect of God. And there are no limitations on that. And so when we really understand what that means, and we tap into that and we go into our true inner home, that makes me really excited. So this whole transition that we're going through on the earth at the moment is accelerating that process for so many people. It's pushing us, so that we have to we can go two directions. We can go backwards with that, or we can really push ourselves and go forwards in an accelerated way. And that is the key of why we are here. It's our own soul growth, soul evolution. And then when we do it for ourselves, we automatically empower the collective, and it becomes energetically a shift for everyone when we shift ourselves. You know, they say in the I know you love the Hawkins scale of consciousness, when we hold the consciousness of 500, which is love, the love frequency, we can impact 750,000 souls. And so when you think what that really means, just by holding your space and holding your energy, you are going to emanate your energy out and impact that many people. And that's not even right at the top. You know, when you get to 1,000, just imagine if that's 500 and that's only halfway. When you get to 1,000, how many souls you impact when you're holding that really highest level of frequency. That's why we're all here. And I think that everything boils down to that. Every moment that we're here is an opportunity to grasp this infinite level of creation and really redefining ourselves at every moment as a soul who is of a higher frequency, a higher awareness, a higher expression of the divine.
Wow, beautiful. So one of the things I heard in there, which I'd just like to restate, is the greatest transformation or help we can give the planet is to transform ourselves. Exactly. Because we affect other people just in our being and just being in a higher state.
Absolutely. And every single time we're triggered by something emotionally, when we have a reaction, when we're triggered, it's an indicator to ourselves that there's more work to do within.
Yeah.
If we're able to remain neutral and sort of in non-attachment, which doesn't mean that we're indifferent. We can still be in unconditional divine love and neutral and in non-attachment. So you can know how your own progress is going by how often you're triggered, what are the triggers, the level of reaction in those triggers, all those things. That's what we need to focus on. And also maintaining as high a frequency as possible, and also being a co-creator of the new reality that we want to create. Visualizing very, very clearly on all levels what the world that we want to live in will look like, and holding that vision really strongly, focusing on it every day for a few minutes every day. This is what people need to be doing. When we give attention to all the negative stuff that's happening in the world, as the world shifts and all the karmas being revealed and everything like that, that gives it power. So, you know, that's another important part of why we're here, is to be part of this co-creation in a very positive trajectory.
Thank you very much. Back to you again, and in your work. With some of the work and some of the clients that you've seen in the past, can you share a story or two of some of the transformations, some of the healings that have happened?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So for example, there was this one girl, and she came to me, and I'm sure that they wouldn't mind me sharing, so I would have their permission, I'm sure. But she came to me and she said that she had all this stuff in her house. Like, she'd accumulated all this stuff. It was all down her hallway. It was all in her house. It was everywhere. And she couldn't shift it. No matter what she did, it was just stuck there. And her life was in stagnation. Nothing was happening. You know, our house is an expression of our inner being. And so she was in stagnation. The house was in stagnation. There was all this stuff everywhere. She had a session with me. Literally within 3 days, she had a knock on the door, and a guy who was asking directions at her front door saw some of the stuff in her house, and he said he had a shop with secondhand goods and he'd love to put some of the stuff in his shop. So she literally started getting all the stuff out of her house because she'd shifted her inner. And then her house shifted as an expression of that. And she cleared up her house, which is incredible feng shui when you clear up your own space. And so she was clear and her house became clear. So I thought that was a really interesting result of the session that she had. And I also recently had a fellow come to me who had been on he'd been on one of those journeys with the, ayahuasca type journey thing, but it had triggered something for him that had brought up a lot of negative stuff, and it was creating troubles for him in his life. You know, he was quite perturbed by the energies that it brought up, because sometimes when you do these journeys or take these things, you're pushing yourself beyond what you would do naturally. You know what I mean? So if you're naturally going to go to that spiritual place of evolution, that's one thing. But when you push it in that way, sometimes it can trigger stuff that you're not ready for, or that you can't deal with, or maybe even some negative stuff. So anyway, so it came to me with that, and it had a lot of challenges. And in one session, cleared it all, felt the divine connection, and was back to functioning in a way that was really constructive for his life. And that was just in the one session. And
awesome.
His beautiful wife said that she was just so thankful that it completely transformed his reality, basically back to one that was a positive one for him. And just a simple one, like, Janine had a session with me, which was, she had a relationship issue with a girlfriend. Tarot by Janine Marajo.
Yes.
She talks about this one where, so she had a relationship issue with someone, and she's talked about it, so she wouldn't mind me mentioning it. And so we did a clearing on a past life, because sometimes it can be past lives that are blocking us with these things, and we're just recreating the same situation again because it was unhealed. That's very common. So she just recreated a situation with this other being that had returned again, that had recreated from a past life. And so when we did a clearing on that, she was able to, and this person, they'd completely disconnected, she was able to reunite and get back to their, really good positive relationship again. And they were close as anything after the session, because they were able to clear that, so often a past life will come up, and that will be. Another one was recently, I said that I saw a past life of this person, and they can be quite traumatic, the past lives that come up, because obviously that's what needs clearing, because there's soul wounding there. And she was in a pit of, in the Roman days they would put people in pits of snakes and things like that, and she was in one of these, and that was her demise in that lifetime. And then she said that she had this afterwards, after I brought it up and told her that we need to work on that, she said she had this terrible phobia of snakes. And then so we did work on that, and she was able at the end of the session, in a visualization, to see a snake coming towards her, coming and touching her body. She didn't react, she didn't respond, she was able to remain neutral and indifferent to that. And so that was through the healing. So you can actually address every single thing in your life through this type of work. There is nothing that you can't address, and different, things will shift in divine alignment. So, for example, say somebody does work on something, and they just have to trust that they will receive what they're meant to through the session, to shift it in the way that is in divine alignment. And sometimes you get these incredible miracles, and miracles happen a lot, and then other people get smaller things, but generally they're very perceivable, and you can really, very tangible, the results.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And I know you have a number of global quite a broad client base around the world. You have a global presence, and I was actually curious about, there's a lot of stuff going on all around the world, and are your global clients also coming forward and presenting with the same kind of issues that Australian clients are having? Is it 100%. Same thing happening all around the world?
100%.
100%.
Yes. So what I'm seeing presenting often at the moment, which I find fascinating, is that we're all individually addressing our own inner empowerment and our own sovereignty on an individual basis. So some people are presenting to me and they've got an issue with their boss, where their boss is being unreasonable and not treating them properly and being controlling whatsoever. Or someone else might present with a partner who is being over controlling and perhaps telling them what they can do and what they can't do. Or there might be another situation where they have a different scenario like that, where they're feel like they're being victimized or something like that, and so that people are getting this on an individual level, and then we're collectively, globally, also addressing our own ability to be sovereign and to step out of these enslavement codes and these thousands of years patterns that we've been in, where we have been under the control of these other beings that haven't really had our best interest at heart on any level. So as we do it individually and we step into further levels of empowerment, then collectively we can also do it as well, and that impacts the planet. So if you're having those things come up in your life where you're being triggered to really step into your empowerment, know that this is really common at the moment, and it's about self-love, loving yourself. It's about having boundaries, and this is the moment to really address those type of issues as well. So that's something really common that's coming up at the minute. The other is the ability for us all to step out of our heart, out of our head and go into our hearts. The Western culture is very mental. It's a very mind-obsessed culture, very centered on the mind and the intellect and intellectualization and but we're all being asked to go now more and more into our heart and open and expand our heart center and function, because that's a much higher frequency. And you want to be in as we go into these Aquarian energies of this new age, you want to be in the flow of the energy, the flow of life. And that's much easier to get into when you're coming from that intuitive base, from that, that heart base.
Cool. Thank you.
Pleasure.
I was just reflecting last night about you, and that whenever we get together, you always have a beautiful practical technique to help whoever's in that room on that day when we meet for lunch, and there'll be a group of people, and no doubtedly somebody's struggling with something, and you always have some sort of a technique. It might be a set of words, it could be very, very simple things, a little meditation. So maybe I thought you could share with your audience today some technique that might help all of us, because a lot of people are struggling.
Absolutely. Well, one that comes to mind, and thank you so much for your kind words. I really appreciate them. It's very beautiful. I would recommend to people to work at the moment also on their inner critic. Many people have an inner critic that is a very loud voice. It's even like you can see it as a personality that's saying to them, you're wrong, there's something wrong with you, you're stupid, you're this, you're that, blah blah blah. And on it goes, that inner critic. So I would really encourage people to go in on a meditation. So when, for example, a really great way to do that is to center yourself in your heart space of divine unconditional love. You can see it as a beautiful flame that surrounds yourself. And also that flame that I really recommend working with at the moment is the ultraviolet purple flame, because that is the flame of transmutation, the flame of self-transformation. So it transmutes anything that no longer serves us, and it transmutes karma. It does a lot of things. So centering yourself in that flame of unconditional divine love, that ultraviolet purple flame of self-transformation, and then going to your favorite place in nature that you love. And that's a great technique to do anytime, because not only do we in our imagination see ourselves there, but your body at a physiological level also feels like it's there when you think about it. So it's impacting you on all levels. So going to a beautiful favorite place in nature that you love, really taking time to center your energy there, feel it very deeply, how it looks, how it sounds, how it feels, the energy of that. And then inviting your inner critic to come and present itself, to stand in front of you and see what presents. And what you want to do is you want to have what you can call a soul conference or a dialogue with that inner critic, and just talk to it and say, look, I know you're here to try and help me, because on some level it's here to protect you and it's trying to keep you safe, but it does it in a way that diminishes you. So what you want to do is you want to say to your inner critic, I know you're here to help me, and I thank you, I appreciate you. So it always comes from that space of love and forgiveness. And say, look, I know you're trying to help me, but I'm ready to let you go now. I'm loving myself more and more, and I don't need to, be judgmental toward myself. I don't need to be self-critical. And I'm ready to let that go now. So, and then you dialogue with that inner critic, and they talk to you and you talk to them until everything is expressed. And then you invite them to leave, or to step aside, or to step back. And sometimes you visualize them like disappearing, and they get smaller and smaller, or there are different things that can happen. You can ask if they're a little stubborn. You can ask Archangel Gabriel, the archangel of communication, to come and talk to them and explain why it's necessary for them to take less of a role in your life. And then you can ask Archangel Michael to come, for example, with his Merkaba and take them away as well, because that's a transport vehicle to take away any beings with life force, and just take away this inner critic. And then what you can do is you can then with that space that's left, fill that up with golden light, and then you'll notice that you'll get less and less of those negative moments and those negative thoughts and those negative inner dialogues happening as that energy dissipates and it clears away. And then you can step more and more into that self-love. So that's a really important one. Some people, when they do that technique, they see, for example, one of their parents presents as the inner critic. And it's interesting with parents, because often what parents, they see their children as a reflection of themselves. So anything they haven't healed within themselves, or anything they don't like about themselves, they can see reflected in their child, which then makes them a critic of that child. So they're really just trying on some level to heal themselves through being an inner critic of the child.
Well, that's really divine timing, because all morning, for about 2 hours this morning, I was talking about this.
Wow.
About myself. And I was talking about how the ego can be overinflating who you are. But equally, the ego can be deflating. That inner critic, it can be deflating, and you can say, I'm not, like, just like you said, those are the words I was using this morning, not good enough, who would want to listen to me, all these things that stop us from stepping forward.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so I'm doing some counseling work with some people. And that's an area I'm moving into. Yet I've been holding myself back. And this is exactly what I was talking about this morning with somebody for about 2 hours.
Wow.
Who I've been working with, and she's just, and people say, you are just brilliant. You should be doing this. There's just no question. And so this I'm going to do this inner critic work.
There's another little tip
that you talked about that too.
Oh, sorry, Steve. Sorry, I thought you'd finished. There's another little tip that goes with that might be helpful too, which is just to even creatively draw your inner critic. So when you acknowledge something and you give it validation and you recognize it, it actually limits its control of you. When you try to push something away or suppress it, it keeps bouncing back and it has more power and more control of you. But when
whatever you resist persists.
Exactly. So when you bring it in and you really recognize it and you honor it and acknowledge it and then let it go, that is really powerful. So you can even draw it and then say, I now let you go in love, and then you can let that go. So that's another way too that can be helpful. And for children as well, that's a really good one, drawing and using that creative faculties. And when you're drawing, you're working with the emotional energy center as well, the creative center, which expresses yourself emotionally as well. But isn't that a synchronistic thing that you're actually working on that this morning?
I think you picked up on that. You picked up on that as we connected online here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think most people can relate to that on some level, that that anything that's holding us back from being, stepping into our divine soul mission, that's another one that people are presenting with at the moment. I don't know what I'm meant to do. I don't know what I'm here for. What is my divine soul mission? So when you clear out the cupboard and do that work on yourself, your divine mission becomes clearer and clearer and clearer, because you're connecting much more strongly to the authentic self of who you are, and then you don't have that, because that can sometimes, that work that you need to do on yourself can block the process of you being able to step into your soul mission. So when you've done that, and the soul mission can sometimes just present itself, really clearly. And also, going back to all the things that gave us joy in this lifetime, what were the causes of that? Because often that there's a connection with that, with what we're here to give to the world and present as a soul mission. And the thing I always ask people to really go in and drill in on deeply is, if there was no money in the world and it wasn't a question of money, what would you do for the pure joy and love and sort of fulfillment at a soul level? What would you do? And that really can quickly cut to the core of.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That really, I can see it. Yep.
Yeah. Because money distracts us and it keeps us in the enslavement process, just trying to survive. And it actually is has been a tool of the Cabal to keep us from being our divine creator, infinite selves, and being able to express our divine soul missions.
Right on. Thank you.
Pleasure.
That's great. Thank you. A few more questions. You do a lot of past life work, and you do Akasha record work. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering about if you could share a little story about a past life that might relate to now.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I've got one that's it's so relevant to this moment that we're in right now. In this lifetime, I'm a singer. I've always sung, And
that's how I met you. You came and sang at my Octagon.
yes,
That we had
that was
just finished
beautiful.
building.
I loved that. That was so nice. What a gorgeous group of people that were there, and the energy was just superb. And your yurt that you built with so much love and heart, and it's just beautiful. So yeah, it was a lovely experience. Thank you for that. So I've come in with this thing of singing. So this part of my healing, when I sing, it has a healing energy in it, and I love that. And it's funny because in my family ancestral line, I had a very famous ancestor relative. It was my great grandmother, who was a famous opera singer. She sang with Dame Nellie Melba in Scotland on stage.
Wow.
And so I read a bit of a history about her, and it was really super fascinating for me that she had a lot of my qualities. So she would sit at the piano and write, which is music, which is what I did when I was younger. And she loved her piano. And then she had certain, she's quite strong in her beliefs, and she had qualities that were like me. And I thought, she sounds a lot like me. And then one time my mum gave me a locket with a strand of her hair in it. And I thought, oh my God, that could be my hair from that lifetime, because I was pretty much thinking she was me. And then what happened apparently in that lifetime was, or it was a past life. I'm not 100% clear if it was hers or just another past life, but what happened was I was a singer, and I was a successful opera singer, and I'd made a lot of money, and my family wanted the money. So they put me in a home, an elderly home, where I couldn't access the money. And it was like one of those insane asylums where they would medicate you. So they would force inject me, and I was in a state of not, I was, semi comatose, or not able to function properly, because I was under this heavy medication which was being forced into me. And from that moment I was really anti this, and so all this stuff, even before the whole issue came up with this, I was already very much against the whole Harmer organization, with a P at the beginning, Harmer, because that's what it does. It's here to profit and profiteer, and it doesn't fix issues unless you have like a broken leg or something and you're going to a hospital. But they have great emergency situations. They have great ways of dealing with that. But for all the rest of the stuff where they're giving out medication and drugs and things for everything, and then they're causing side effects, and then you're getting more and more hooked into the whole philosophies of how to live by just taking drugs and things like this. That I was very anti that even before all this stuff came up 2 years ago. So you can imagine, when I had these issues coming up of potentially everyone being, then it did remind me of that lifetime where that happened, because they wanted, my family wanted my money. And so by suppressing me in that way, they felt that they would be able to get their hands on my money. So that's very relevant to what we see now, where there is this going on, because the controllers want to basically, depopulate and get rid of the masses, so that they can have just a small group of people to control much more easily. So yeah, it very, very reminds me of that lifetime.
So it must be right in your face right now.
Well, I've done a lot of work on it, so I'm not stressed with it. I feel like I've transmuted a lot of that, unless other layers come up. I am constantly striving to work on transmuting and shifting anything that comes up for me as I advocate, for my clients, so that I'm not triggered. And so I do feel that I'm good with that, and I have an awareness of it. So it's good to have that awareness sometimes as well. The other beautiful past life I have, which I'm constantly reminded of, is Native American Indian medicine woman, where I worked with doing similar, energetic healing. And it's funny because I channeled the name Medyhne, and then I found out in one of the dialects in North American Indian, it meant medicine woman.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, cool. and so that really resonates.
Yeah. And tell me if this is the truth or not, or your understanding around past lives. Because I know earlier on when you talked about past lives, you say you often come back and you might meet the same soul, or like in your case, you had a life where you were something put in there and it kind of it made you kind of go a bit silly, and now you're back in this lifetime and that's in your face again.
Yeah.
So is it true that with past lives that we have another life because something hasn't been completed? We might meet the same soul to complete something or to heal something that, I guess it's all about consciousness and the growth of our soul in consciousness. So anywhere where we've contracted in the previous life, we have an opportunity now to expand with a similar situation. Is that true?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, that is a really important question. So I'll take it to a higher level, is prior to incarnating, we connect with other souls. And I say, look, I've got this unresolved issue from this past life where I need to learn, for example, I need to learn patience. And so the other soul will say, okay, I'm going to teach you patience. So I'm going to present in this way, which might not look good in the 3D reality, but I'm going to present to you in this way so that you can learn a lesson that you need to learn. And I'm doing that for you because I love you. And so then we incarnate and we come back and we have a scenario where we are forced to learn patience. So that's been one of my lessons in this lifetime. So it's relevant. And so remembering that all souls come in energetically on that level to support one another, to learn what we need to learn. Dolores Cannon talked about this. And so definitely you'll come across people that you've had past lives with and things with, and they'll seem familiar, and it's like meeting an old friend. Sometimes it just comes back and you already know them and things like that's happening more and more at the minute. We're really reconnecting more and more with our soul family and our soul tribe, which is a beautiful thing. And then there's sometimes at the same time our karmic relationships, which are often the families that we were born into, where we have the most karma. Those are the ones that are sort of dissipating and dissolving because they're no longer relevant. As we've healed the karma and we've moved on, those consciousnesses are not in alignment with our own consciousness. So you're not vibrating at the same frequency. So it's very hard to have relationships with other souls when you're at very different, frequencies. We're very different consciousness. And so those are dissipating and going into the distance. And then the new soul, spiritual family, the tribe are coming in. And on that level, it's beautiful, but you have to be able to master the process of surrendering and letting go. And so again, a lot of clients are presenting to me, this is happening in my family. I'm finding that I'm just not able to talk to them. I can't communicate. How do I let go? So that's a huge one at the minute.
Yeah, and I've had a past life with my oldest brother many times, and he just passed about 6 months ago.
Yes.
And I've had past life readings, and what I've found from the benefit of the past life reading is that when you know what happened in a previous life, and then you can actually understand why something is happening in this life.
Yes.
And it's a lot easier to transmute it and to actually see what it's about, and so that it doesn't stay stuck in your field, in your dynamic, and then it comes again and you do it again the next life. And so I can just recommend to everybody out there that past life readings, and I've had one with you, and it's just incredible. Really helps you like you said, with families in particular, why is this happening? Why is he or she doing this? And then the past life reading will actually help you understand what's happening now and why it's happening now.
Exactly. And you can often tell too. So for example, and this was the same with your case, I think, with your brother, that you have someone in your life that just doesn't matter what you do or what you say, they've just got it against you. Got this scotch. And you're thinking, why is that? You know, I haven't really done anything to them, but they're just that's often indicator of a past life stuff that's unhealed.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. They're just out to, like, you cannot do right no matter what you do.
Yeah. And it might not be about you. In fact, you're playing a role for that soul.
Yes.
Right. Yes. And it happens again because it's giving that soul an opportunity to shift and transform, or to find love finally in their heart, or whatever it might be.
That's true. Yeah. So I have had that around, and all I can do is work on myself to make sure that I'm clear. And I'm not responsible for them, for what they choose to do. If they choose to come and repeat the same behavior that they did in other lifetimes and recreate that karma, that's their choice. And I'm not attached to that. So it's that thing of I am not, it's not my business what anyone else thinks of me. I just got to be, responsible for myself.
Yeah, that's the ego. So,
yeah.
So final question. An important question, because
I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know you've set up this incredible online community, and I don't know if everybody knows about it. What does this community offer, and why would I want to join it?
Okay. Well, thank you for mentioning.
And what is it? What's the name of it?
Sure. I'm very excited that I've got this going. I had a lot of clients say to me that they feel isolated or alone, and that they want to connect with other like-minded, spiritual community. So I set up a Patreon Arise Humanity community, and it has different levels of access with different offers. So at the basic level, you're helping support my channel, which, is a lot of work for me to put together my interviews and my channel and everything, and that supports that. But you get a lot of information that I send to you through the Patreon community, including free offerings. Like I just did a beautiful, like a meditation and an audio called the Blessing Heart meditation. And I also did a recording of some beautiful crystal bowls, and then I blended it together so that you're getting all the energy of those crystal bowls at the same time. And that's one of the free audio offering gifts on there as well. So you get beautiful things coming through like that, just for $3 a month, which is, very basic. But then there's different levels that you can join at, where you can access a soul healing group, where we do soul healing on Australia and New Zealand and the world, where we come together and we work on energy healing and clearing, and I guide you, and we have different people sometimes as guests coming in and sharing that space with their skills. So that's really important work for the planet. Then there's community chat that we have, where people can come together and just let off some steam and express, all the things that we're all going through at the minute. We can chat about it and talk about solutions and ways that we can support one another. Recently, a lady came on and shared a legal thing, and so then we talked about ways that you could work with the legal issues. I've got some beautiful information on a spiritual court of equity, how to go in and work, setting up a beautiful spiritual space to be able to work with any sort of legal situation. So, there's some great tools and resources that come out of all this as well. I have a kids on Saturdays, an access pass, so kids and teens for a very affordable rate for families. They can come on and have sessions as well to work on, at a children's level or a teens level. I've done a lot of work with children and teens. And then there's things like working on your divine soul purpose, your divine mission. And there's also, you can promote your business in the community. So you give me the information and I share it with the community just to put your business out there. So there's different things like that it offers. And really love people to get on board and support this, because it's just another community that we can create to unify and support one another, and really help one another through these times that we're going through at the minute as well.
Awesome. And where do people find this? How do people contact you for a session? You do online sessions and in-person sessions, and how do they find this community?
Yes. Well, on my website, on the first page, there's a link to go straight to my Patreon community, and there's a link also to go to my YouTube channel. And on my website, there's a sessions page. You just go there to book a session. So I'll leave the link below for my website, and also for the Patreon community, a direct link. And if you've got any questions too, people can write to me and ask any questions. Yeah, I do get a lot of emails about.
What's your website address?
It's www.medyhne.com. So it's MEDY for yellow, H for Harry, N for Nelly, E for Edward. MEDYHNE. And yeah, just got to get that spelling right. That's the only thing. Yeah. Thank you, Steve. I really love chatting with you. Thank you so much for asking.
That was very nice. Very nice. I like asking the questions instead of answering the questions.
Oh, well, you do it so well. Can I ask you, I'd love to ask you about your beautiful book that you've written about your own journey, your own healing journey. And, you know, I think it's these types of stories that really empower people who are going through that themselves. So please share with us about your book, and also I'm going to put links below of where people can purchase your book as well.
Well, the book is called Inner Sky, and the subtitle of the book is Life Begins Where Resistance Ends. Mm-hmm. The book is really not about me in any way, although I share a very deep and personal story in the book to explain resistance, because we've been taught all of our lives from very early on to seek the good, to seek happiness, to seek this, and avoid the bad. Yet in life is dual. Life has, where there's good, there's bad. Where there's happy, there's sad.
Yeah.
So we're constantly confronted with challenges in life. And I myself have had a very challenging life in one way. And I won't go into that at all at the moment. It's in the book. I've had a very challenging life from childhood, confronted with a very difficult family situation. I was a very sensitive boy, so it really confronted me. And so to survive, I found a way to survive, and that is a story. My whole life story is a story of resistance. Resistance is how we avoid and fight with the things we don't want to experience. Mm-hmm. Now we're taught that we should do this, right?
Yeah. Just to avoid anything that's going to create pain.
Avoid the bad, avoid, you know, and so we might have a conflict with somebody, and what do? We're like, oh, I don't want to go near that person, or you know, or any kind of a situation that challenges us, that triggers us. As you said, we might react to something, or we get triggered inside. But one of the biggest secrets of life, and it's a universal law, is the law of resistance. And no matter if we resist anything, it doesn't go away. No. In fact, it'll stay.
Persists.
What resists persists. And so with my life, from the age of about, I don't know, I was in elementary school, and I literally said to myself, I'm never ever going to feel these feelings again. So and I'm going to just build this thick skin, and I'm never going to feel this stuff ever again. And that's what I did. And I thought, okay, I'm good, right?
Yeah.
We deceive ourselves. But the story of resistance is this, you know, it's actually not the experiences in our life that causes us suffering. Resistance is actually the cause of our suffering.
Right. Yeah.
And life is just happening. Life is coming and going. We can have a good experience. It comes and we don't resist it, and it happens and it goes. We have a bad experience. It comes in. We say, I don't want this. And what happens? It's there. It's in our vibration. It gets stored in our cells because we're here to experience.
Yeah.
We are in this, we incarnate in this body to experience. You know, out of this body in our natural state, we're spirit and we don't experience the physical. So we're here for these things. So we're not here to avoid, we're here to meet our experiences. So the book really is the teachings of a person I met when I was 38 years old, and I was basically told I was dead with bowel cancer. And I had 2 young kids. And as I said, the story is not about me, but in the magic of this reality, of this divine planet, is that in this moment where I was dying and I was going to be dead, I was introduced to a great German doctor with him. And I won't tell you much more because you can read the book, but within 8 days of meeting this person, I had a spontaneous healing. I met this amazing, incredible guy who you'll meet in the book. And really, the book is his teachings about resistance and what he taught me about resistance and non-resistance and so forth. Within 8 days of meeting this guy, I had a spontaneous healing of cancer. So what he taught me is in this book.
Wow.
And you talked earlier about how we can get triggered by certain people, we can get triggered by certain events, we can react to things. How you know that you've healed something completely is that when you're put in the same situation that used to trigger you and you don't get triggered. So after 8 days of this, I was put back in the situation of my childhood, in the family scene back in America where I grew up.
Yeah.
In front of my mother and father, with the scene that was playing out, that same scene that I grew up with. And I absolutely was not triggered. And that was, how many years ago was that? That was, so that was 20 years ago. And I had a spontaneous healing. But, and I'm totally healthy, totally healed. Because the cause, yeah. So the book is really the story about resistance. It's not a story about my cancer, but I use that story to explain it. And the story of resistance is that anything we fight with or try to avoid is the cause of our suffering. And you can apply that to anything and everything that's happening in your life. So the book really is a very grounded book. I wrote it in a way that my brothers would get it.
It's very,
my
very
brothers
I recommend
it. Yeah, so the book is a very grounded book. It's a very easy read. It's ideal for a very spiritual person. It's actually equally or more ideal for a person who is just in the mainstream, who's suddenly challenged with a life situation. It doesn't have to be a life-threatening situation. It can be any situation. What you learn in this book is how to meet any situation that challenges you and bring you into peace and to dissolve whatever's happening, any kind of negative thing that's happening.
Fantastic.
That's what the book is. And it's written really good for the layman, for the, and the advanced spiritual person. It'll take you by the hand and it expands as you read, as you go deeper and deeper, it'll expand. So yeah,
I highly recommend it. To just let the audience know or the listeners know that I highly recommend it, and it's really easy to read.
You can get it on Amazon or Booktopia, or you can email me at author at stevenlayer.com, stevenlayer.com. If you're in Australia. If you're overseas, I'd recommend you get it on Amazon
and I'll leave some links
all the major booksellers online. Yeah.
And if you want to organise a retreat in the Byron region in New South Wales, Steve has the most incredible yurt there where he has retreats. So contact. I'll leave his information below.
It's a very elegant octagon.
Oh, it's gorgeous. The acoustics are stunning too.
Looking onto the mountain. Living on
Yes.
the Mount Morning.
Yeah. Beautiful, a whole big spectrum of views. It's gorgeous. I would love to finish with a story. Just, I think that's really pertinent to what you talk about with resistance. And this is a true story. Oh my God, I heard this and I thought that is the most incredible thing. I have a friend who has a dear friend who is a monk in India. And this monk was very fearful of tigers. And he knew he had to work on this fear that he had of tigers. And so he's out one day and he's walking, and he's just walking along, and he hears, and he turns around and there's this tiger following him. And he knows that he's working on how to transmute the fear of tigers, because this is his fear. And so he thinks, okay, what do I do? What do I do? But in a monk way, he's done this. And so he goes in and he asks himself, so what do I need to do? What do I need to do? So what do you think he did, Steve? Do you know what he did?
He turned and faced the tiger.
100%.
And he dropped, and he loved the tiger. He dropped his fear somehow.
Yeah. He turned round and he started walking towards the tiger, doing sound effects. and then, do you know what the tiger did?
Ate him.
I was going to say that, but that wouldn't be a good end to the story now, would it?
No, I don't know. You tell me. You tell me what he did.
So what happened was the tiger turned around and started walking off into the distance in front of him. And isn't it? And that's a true story. So I mean, it sums it up, doesn't it? What a metaphor.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. Because if you meet that which you've been avoiding or fighting with,
yeah,
and become one with it,
mm.
how could there be anything wrong? It just dissolves. It just naturally, the energy, whatever you've been holding, it just moves on. Just like the tiger moved on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, perfect. Well, thank you so much. I've just
enjoyed
this chat, and thank you for interviewing me. Or chatting with me about my work. So really
I'm a bit cheeky that way.
Surprise.
Yep.
Thank you, Steve, and love to everyone out there that's listening. Thank you so much for listening to this talk today. Please leave a comment below. You know, your comments are really valuable to me. I always read them, and love you to join my community if that inspires you as well, if it resonates. Love to see you there. So thank you so much. Thank you, Steve. Lots of love.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.